Last week, Tesla announced $3.6 billion investment in two new factories in Nevada, one for mass producing its electric semi-truck, and the other will be a battery factory. Now, I'm going to talk to Dr. Kai-Philipp Kairies of ACCURE Battery Intelligence, and he joins us from Aachen, Germany. So welcome to the interview, Kai-Philipp.
Hey, Markham.
Now, you and I talked about the Tesla's 4680 battery like a year and a half ago. They're finally getting ready to ramp up, I gather, to mass produce this. Can you give us just a brief overview of what the 4680 is and how it differs from other battery cells?
Yeah, so when Tesla started out building electric cars, they were using the 18650 format, which is 18 millimeters, 65 millimeters cylinder shape. And that was one of the few really standardized battery formats at the time. And Tesla's hypothesis always was to go to a highly standardized format where you can profit from scale. And over time, Tesla tweaked that 18650 format into the 2170 format, which can be produced on the exact same machinery, but just uses a little bit less slack on the edges, so you can get more battery from the same machine. And so they already developed a standard into a new standard. And they have a huge facility in Nevada operated by Panasonic, producing 2170 cells for them. So 2170 is like an iteration of an already existing standard. The 4680 is something completely new. So Tesla designed a cell from ground up and optimized according to their, best guess of what would work in an electric car. And by doing that, they basically established a new standard. Many companies are now producing cells in this 4680, 46 millimeters, 80 millimeter, 46 diameter, 80 millimeters height standard. And it seems to establish as the new standard for e-mobility in cylindrical cells.
Why is the bigger size important, or what is it about the 4680 that makes it so much better than the standard that came before it?
Tesla did quite a few things on these cells. So they have a tabless design that has a higher surface connecting with the bus bars. The geometry, if you have a larger cell, you basically have a better surface to volume ratio. So for the same amount of battery capacity, you need less housing. So you can save, a little bit of material, and that also supports your energy density and ultimately cost. The design also has some advantages in terms of cooling, but then again, that also, depends on the pack format.
Now, I understand that one of the innovations around this is dry coating of the anodes, and Tesla's had a little trouble in other battery factories in California and Texas with this technology. Are they getting it ironed out?
Well, the thing is, dry coating is really not related to the cell format later on. The coating process is really, when the active material is combined with the tap, so the piece of metal that brings the electricity in and out of the battery. And the traditional way to do it is with wet coating. So you have a slurry that's pasted onto the sheet of metal and then dried, which is extremely energy consuming and takes a lot of floor space to do it. And Tesla acquired a company called Maxwell 4 or 5 years back that was actually famous for supercapacitors, but they only acquired them because they also had a patent for dry coating. And so dry coating can substantially reduce your energy consumption and therefore the operational costs of a factory, smaller footprint, great things, but it is not fully established. This is still something that the technology has a few quirks that Tesla is working on. As far as I know, for some 4680 cells, there were some analyses that the anode was dry coated, but the cathode was not. so that some parts might already work, but others don't. And that Tesla is in the transition of that right now. But the same would also go for pouch or prismatic cells. So the way you roll your active materials later on, that's after the coating process.
Kai-Philipp, my understanding is that the Tesla has a couple of big goals. They want to have battery costs by 2030 and ramp up their battery production by 100-fold. And the 4680 is key to that. Can you explain that for us?
Well, I think that from a macro perspective, important thing to see here is the cell production that Tesla had at its Nevada Gigafactory was run by Panasonic. And it was in a part of the factory that only Panasonic employees had access to. So Tesla basically had a third party produce cells on their property, but as Panasonic. And that cell production line with the 21700s, which are used for Model S and X still, that is at 35, 37 gigawatt hours per year. That's a massive factory. And now on top of that, and actually Tesla also announced last year that they want to increase the output of their existing facility by 50%. So that would add another 15, 20 gigawatt hours in that old part. But completely separate from that, now Tesla wants to build 100 gigawatt hours under their own operation or with their own operation. So without Panasonic, without anyone else. And actually scale that from 100 gigawatt hours, which Elon Musk called phase 2. But he was also already speaking about phase 3 and 4, leading to 500 and over 1,000 gigawatt hours per year. Huge numbers, right? So then we're talking about terafactories, not gigafactories anymore. And one thing that hasn't been picked up by the media much, at least to my knowledge, is he said that they will also do stationary systems with the 4680 cell, which means that it seems that they will also use LFP cathodes for the 4680 because it's pretty clear that they will keep using LFP for stationary. And that's quite a big deal.
Okay. We've seen in the last couple of weeks that Tesla is shaving its prices by quite a bit. I think they brought some of the Model S down by $20,000 in that range, and yet they're still profitable, according to the articles that I've read. It looks like once again Tesla's maintaining its lead in the technology and within the industry, and it sounds like the 4680 battery is kind of the heart of all of that change. Tesla's ability to scale up, its ability to bring prices down, its ability to keep innovating within the battery space. Is that a fair comment to make?
I think it goes farther than this. So the 4680 cell, I think it's a great example of Tesla's overall strategy. And I mean, what they basically did is they looked into the market. Is there a battery cell available at the quality that we need, at the cost that we want, and at the scale that we want to have? And all three answers were no. And so they started doing it themselves. And they've been, Tesla is highly vertically integrated. They go into depths of their own supply chain that no other OEM did. OEM have very comfortably made a living of outsourcing everything, dictating their suppliers' prices with supply chain management systems, and basically just putting the car together and putting a sticker on it. And Tesla has done the exact opposite. And in a market that is now being disrupted by new technologies and where speed of iteration processes and scaling become important, Tesla is in a better position. I mean, there's still the question, are they in such a good position to justify their market capitalization, which is ginormous? But from a technical perspective, yes, they do have a lead on pretty much everyone else.
How big is that lead? I mean, we've seen GM CEO bragging about its Ultium battery and its Ultium platform. We've seen some of the other EV companies now, or the OEMs that are getting into EVs in a big way, talking about some of their battery innovations. But how far ahead of the rest of the industry is Tesla in the battery space?
In the battery space, I mean, Tesla is the only company that has successfully made their own cells. Very easy. Like all the other ones are buying from third parties. And there are some companies that, have dedicated a lot of resources into it. Volkswagen, they work very closely with Northvolt, and they, just spun out a few companies, Battery Corp, Equipment Corp. So they're serious about it, and I think that they're generally on a good path. But none of the legacy car makers has reached the limits that Tesla has done, right? And I don't want to say that Tesla is the best auto company around. It's just, if we look at what they have actually brought to the street, technology that they have developed and commercialized, Tesla has an edge, and probably of more than 2 years on most.
Excellent. Well, always a pleasure, Kai-Philipp. Thank you very much. We'll look forward to our next interview.